one Hebrew Israelite to explain to me how Dr. Brown, quote unquote, got destroyed in his debate with Alazar of Sakari, the black Hebrew Israelite. Please, somebody show me, pointing out how Dr. Brown lost that debate.
Hello, it's young Morpheus with Hebrew Apologetics with young Morpheus and Jose. In this video, I wanted to do a response to a Christian apologist by the name of Alton Johnson, I believe. For those who caught the debate between Guerrilla Hebrew and Dr. Michael Brown, of course you guys know that I already responded before, and plenty of other people responded to this. But since Alton was so very, in my mind, very arrogant and boastful about, well, if anybody can show how Guerrilla Hebrew could have beat Dr. Michael Brown, then respond. I mean, I normally wouldn't take the bait on something like that, but I decided that maybe if I did do a short video getting out some of the things which I noticed which were problematic for me, and do it in a short video, hopefully it will get out maybe some of the things which I wanted to go into, which I didn't go into last week when I did my reaction or our reaction and response video. Just wanted to probably double down a couple of points and put it in a concise video. Maybe some people don't want to sit through the full 2 hours that I did. So I'm gonna try to do this short and quick. So I took a couple of notes. So I put this down to roughly about 12. Some of these will be points which I've already said before. Some of these will be points which you might have heard Deacon Haka, also known as Deacon Sakari. Deacon might have said it. I know Guerrilla might have even brought these points of view up. Assad, Captain Tazama, or Sergeant Yatab might have brought these up. Shout out to all of them, by the way. But I figured I would do this one, try to do this one as quick as possible. This is not in any specific order, it's just some things that I wanted to bring up. So the first point which I wanted to go into is he claimed info to be bogus, which could be scholastically proven. For instance, when they brought up the Azteca, Guerrilla was able to show a source that's from the Strong Concordance. Now, if Dr. Michael Brown wanted to dispute the Strong Concordance, that's perfectly fine, but you cannot say it's completely bogus when it's coming from accredited, source, which most people use from, and is considered a legitimate source. So you just can't automatically dismiss it. You can say you disagree with the Strongs, that's fine and dandy, but you cannot call it bogus. Next one, another part of that is the Brazil versus Barzal. Literally, the A and R flip from what he was saying. It still gives the same understanding and explanation. And if you go into the different versions of, say, the Yemeni Jews, the Samaritans, and going into modern Hebrew, they even have different ways they say words. So to act so rigid and say, well, no, if it's not like this and this and that, that's bogus, that's fake, you're making up a word. I saw that in poor faith, honestly. For a scholar PhD like Dr. Michael Brown, you should be able to say, well, I think that that you're using that incorrectly. I could see where you could possibly go to that, but that's kind of reach. I could see if he'd have made those kind of points, but the fact that he was so over the top trying to discredit stuff, which obviously there was something there or a reason why somebody could even make the comparison. He didn't say Brazil means that. He said that you can hear a similarity. And to tell me that there's not a similarity from Brazil and Barzal, that does not pass the sniff test. Let's see, the next one that I wanted to bring up. 2, he didn't prove evidence to claim the Ashkenazis go back to antiquity. He did not prove anything. He just made assertions. And apparently for Christian apologists, that's enough for somebody who's professed to, be in a certain, level of so-called expertise can just make claims, and they just take that for the gospel. But literally in scripture, it tells us. This is Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus 13 and 23, from the Good News Bible Catholic Edition. When a rich person speaks, everyone is silent, and they praise him to the skies for what he says. But let a poor person speak, and everyone says, "Who is that?" They push him down if he so much as stumbles. So that said right there, that scripture completely goes into what they were doing there by just taking his word for it. The next one, which I wanted to bring up, let's see. He did not debunk the claim about the Colonimus family being converts. He just stated that, no, that's not what that is. That's a misrepresentation, which Dr. Henry Abramson did not say that they were converts. He just said that the nucleus and one of the major families that contributed to Ashkenazi Jewry, especially they came from North Italy. Now, the Jewish Virtual Library does go in and it does say Onkelos was a convert who was part of the Colonimus family. Now, could you go in and say, well, no, there's a different Colonimus or this and that, or I could see how you can come to that understanding, but no, that's not correct for this. He did not do that. He just said, well, that's just not true. That's not what that person said. For a PhD scholar, you need to come with a better response than that. That's no different than some random Christian apologist who graduated from, might not have even graduated. I know there's Christian apologists who didn't graduate from anything, who have no expertise in Near East languages and all that, that probably could have came up with a better argument than what Dr. Brown came up with there. Let's see. See, I'll skip that one and come back. That's right. He claimed no evidence, no Hebrew connections or anything like that between any of the people which he named on the charts. Yet, he completely, either he does not know about this information or he dismissed it. And he can say, I dispute this information, I disagree with this information, but you cannot make the claim that there is no evidence. For instance, right here, where it talks about in Puerto Rico, over 800 Hebrew artifacts were found in Puerto Rico. And you have literally have the people from Haifa in Israel Labs, who are certifying and declaring this. So unless you're literally going against the people in Israel, which that's another issue which I can probably put to mind, which I mentioned in the video which I did. He literally said how, oh, well, these couple of Mormon, I'm not sure if they were elders, whatever they were, how they felt this information was debunked, so they turned away. Because a couple turned away or they disagreed with the rest of the other Mormons, did that mean all the Mormons disagreed? No, it didn't. So the same way he cherry picked a couple of, I guess, elders or scientists or whatever that fit for his argument, he literally criticized Guerrilla for doing the same thing with Paul Wexler when he didn't agree with his assessment. And so, for one, he showed maybe I felt like that was being disingenuous and being dishonest. And for somebody who is supposed to be a scholar or supposed to be the person who's speaking with authority, I would expect better from him than that. I mean, you could say, well, Guerrilla, he has to work whatever tactics he has to work with. But you're the scholar. You're supposed to be able to do better than that. Let's see. What's another one? Oh, yeah. Also, adding on to that, claiming no connection. Check out this video here with Chief Riverwind and his wife.
Proofs I see in the Native American reservations. Talk a little bit about what's going on with that, because when you go and present this to your brothers and your sisters, how is it being received?
Well, I'll tell you. Actually, I'll tell you a story of something that took place with some of our elders when a little over 10 years ago they went to Israel, and they went to the Knesset. They went there to protocol. This was a delegation of First Nations chiefs, spiritual leaders, and elders. And and again, like I said, it wasn't all the tribes that were monotheistic. There were tribes that were polytheistic and worshiped all sorts of different gods. We're just speaking for the tribes that even my people, after the centuries, ended up worshiping other gods and elements and things. But in the ancient times, we were strictly just believers in one God. But this delegation went to Israel and received permission to go to the wall and to be there on behalf of Chief Cornerstone Yeshua. And so they went down to the wall, and they had their drums, and our elders were dressed in their traditional regalia, and they started to sing traditional songs. These are native songs that have been passed down for generations. Well, immediately the Hasidic Jews, the Orthodox Jews, some of the other, they came and telling them, stop singing right now. And our elders were saying, why? And in our tradition, you can't stop a song. So even if you're singing, you can't just stop the song until it's finished. So the people kept singing, and they said, you're singing in High Hebrew. Who taught you our songs?
Wow.
And the elders said, these songs have been passed down for generations. And then they said, you're singing the name of our Most High Elohim. You must stop. And again, the chiefs and elders said, this is what we've always called him. This is how we've preserved his name in our songs. And so you know what happened? Many of these, the Jewish people that were there at the wall, the Hasidics, the Orthodox, they came, and at the invitation of the native people, came to the drum and started singing with the elders and the spiritual leaders. And they were singing his name out loud. Wow. And so that was huge for them. Again, genetic studies is hard to do. We have 500 years of interaction, and actually more than that, because the Phoenicians were traded here long ago. King Solomon's naval ships, they were able to reach our shores long ago. The Vikings, the Asians, all these other cultures and people that were here long before us.
So right there, he's literally telling you that obviously that proves that there's some kind of a linguistic connection, because how would they be able to finish that ceremony? Why would those Orthodox Jews and Hasidics be coming over and telling them to stop if they weren't doing the ceremony? How would they be able to join in with them? I can get if you say, well, I don't know about that connection, maybe I don't agree with that, but for you to say all this stuff is bogus and not really prove how anything is bogus, just say it's bogus, is another thing which I would expect better from a so-called scholar. Let's go into another one. 7, or I guess, well, I'm not sure which number this is, but the claim to have never lost the language, yet they call modern Hebrew for a reason. If you look back to, what is his name? Eleazar ben Yehuda, which I believe his name was Eleazar Yitzhak Perlman before that, he literally started piecing together the language because most of the people before that spoke Yiddish. So obviously you didn't have the language the whole time, and you did stop speaking the language. So that's another claim which I feel like was dishonest when he starts talking about that they won't lose the language. This one in particular I wanted to bring up and go into more because I've seen a couple of different videos from people who are really, really into the whole DNA stuff. I felt like Gorilla already brought up a very, very solid point when he showed how difficult it is to be able to prove Jewish DNA. And I believe, what did it say in particular? It says, what did it say? Hold on a sec. when it talked about the DNA, about that you'd have to have a very biased look at this when you're looking at the DNA. And I mean, I showed in my video, if you guys can go check that out, why I believe that they definitely do have a bias, why people who are involved in DNA science might have a little bit of a bias. But I won't go into detail to that. But on top of while we're talking about the whole DNA thing, Dr. Michael Brown or any of the people who are pushing the DNA argument will have to show some kind of proof that the DNA actually does track back to an actual Israelite. So you're telling me that there's DNA that is pre-70 AD, or even if it's in 135 AD, you're telling me that we can certify which bones you have. You got to remember, there were a lot of wars that happened in that area. Whose bones do you have? Do you know for a fact? I mean, if we're going by the church's standard, Europeans would fall up under Japheth. Well, then that would mean you'd have so-called Japheth bones in the area. We already know Herod was definitely for a fact an Edomite or Idumean, so you would have Edomite bones in the area also. You would definitely have Israelite bones, and not to mention, if there were any proselytes who were there, you would have some of those bones possibly in the area. You would also have the fact that plenty of Israelites did marry wives from other tribes, so you would have bones and DNA from various sons of people. And not to factor in, if you go into what we look at as modern day mixed couples mixing, they could have taken wives from anywhere. And then you factor in that the Greeks did go and rule over that area for a time period before the Romans got in there. So you have a lot of different DNA that would be in that area anyway. When you're saying that your DNA traces back to the Middle East, what does that mean exactly? Because being traced back to the Middle East is a large area. There's a lot of different people who went there, a lot of different people who fought over those areas for many, many years, many centuries. So how do you know which sample DNA, where this DNA is actually even coming from? That's why DNA, even if you say it's somewhat correct, where are you getting the initial DNA that you're testing off of to decide who is who and who is what? You could say this person's, Y-DNA tracks back to R1A and, this is J2. You could say all that stuff. But who came up with these categories? Who put who into which categories? And how do you even know any of that is correct? That's the reason why the DNA has to be, if you are so-called saying you're a Bible believer, you cannot wait on DNA. Let's see. Also, while we're still kind of in the line of the DNA, if we're going by father denotes genealogy, like you have in the book of Numbers, how do you address Ashkenazis who claim by their mother? And so if it's by the father, how many would be disqualified by who their father is? These are questions which I felt definitely should have been asked. And I don't feel like Dr. Michael Brown pushed away any of these additional concerns and questions that people might have, people like me in particular. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, which I felt like he was definitely wrong on, when he talked about Ezekiel 4. When it goes into Ezekiel 4 and 7, you can literally look at multiple translations, including the JPS Tanakh, was it 1917, and it literally translates to prophesy. So when Dr. Michael Brown was saying, no, Gorilla, you have that wrong, that's for the sins of Israel before. Dr. Michael Brown, are you telling me that Israel only sinned for 430 years throughout their couple thousands of years of history? Or or that the Most High is only going to punish them for 430 years of that iniquity when he sent them into captivity after captivity after captivity for their sins. So therefore, they sinned, then were punished. Not, I'm going to retrospect, I'm going to go back in the past for what they did for all those hundreds of years. Like, I just gave them 400 years of free passes. It didn't work that way. We obviously know that they went into captivity in Egypt. We know that they went into captivity in Babylon, Persia, Greece. I mean, so I mean, I'll rest my point there. But you can't try to say that, oh well, no, this denotes some other time. It literally says that it's going to be prophesied. Another area why I would say that Dr. Michael Brown lost is because he had to be corrected. Well, for one, he's wrong on that one. Another one that he's wrong on is he was corrected by Guerrilla about the Levites leaving the Northern Kingdom. He's like, oh, where in history did it happen? Hello, you're supposed to be some kind of scholar. Maybe you're just a scholar on the maybe he's just a scholar on the language, but he's not a scholar on understanding doctrine, which he should be if he's kind of teaching people and all that. But anyway, he had to be corrected by Guerrilla on that. You're the big dog PhD who goes around debating people all over the world. You should not have a so-called high school dropout having to correct you. That right there, that should not happen. Let's see, what else would I like to bring up? Oh, Dr. Michael Brown brought out about if they don't circumcise on the 8th day, then they're cut off from Israel. Does being cut off from Israel means you completely lose your nationality? No, that's not true. Because if that's the case, if that's what he's saying, that, oh, if you're not circumcised, if you don't do this custom or you don't do that custom, you're cut off. Then what about the 10 supposed lost tribes, the northern tribes? Are you saying that they are now cut off forever? Well, wait a minute. Doesn't in the book of Revelations, it talks about it literally names 12,000 from this tribe, 12,000 from that tribe, 12,000 from this tribe. And all of those tribes are tribes which more than likely are not keeping any of the laws, or maybe if they're keeping some of them, it's by accident. So he'd have to square that one because that doesn't make sense with the statement which he made. I'm trying to hurry it up. I'm almost done. What else do I have here? Oh yeah, and this is why I say I'll go into, I think his understanding is wrong again. If he's saying Deuteronomy 28 and 62, that they would be few in numbers, then why? And then he says, when Guerrilla brings up Hosea 1 and 10, he's like, well, you can't have it both ways. If you're under the curses, well, Hosea 1 and 9 literally says basically that you are cut off in a sense. So if it's saying that I'm no God to you, that is you being cut off. That's not being blessed. And then it says, yet you will be as the sand of the sea. So that's another area where Dr. Michael Brown was wrong on Bible, which probably makes sense to me why he didn't bring up very many scriptures. Let's see, what else do I have here? Deuteronomy 28 and 68. His understanding of it is that you will sell yourselves in the history. For one, there is no recorded history of anyone selling themselves into slavery, the Israelites selling themselves to anybody outside of the children of Israel. It's not documented. So therefore, are you so certain that your understanding or that your interpretation is correct? Because you got to remember, modern Hebrew just came around in the early, 1910, 1920? It was recreated. So you'd have to believe that a secular Jew understood everything perfectly correct, which more than likely they did not. In fact, if you go into Eleazar ben Yehuda, he was castigated by a lot of the Orthodox Jewry. So that's something which I feel like is a problematic stance when you hinge so heavily on the modern Hebrew. Next thing that I would bring up, Deuteronomy 28 and 46. Paraphrasing right now, which I will throw it up on the screen. That scripture literally says that the signs will be on you. The curses will be on you for a sign and your descendants forever. Now, if we're looking at the Ashkenazi population, we should be able to see those signs. The only one out of the I think it's more than 50 curses, which Dr. Michael Brown could bring up, was Deuteronomy 28 and 62, saying that they'll be few in number. But wait a minute. If you look at modern Jewry, as far as Ashkenazi, they are actually benefiting from more of the blessings, when it's pretty clear that most modern Jewry is secular, so they're not keeping any kind of laws. In fact, they're breaking a lot of laws even in the land, which that doesn't add up with prophecy at all. It literally says if you're breaking the laws, you will be cursed. So how can majority of you be in how can majority of you guys even be in the land? Or even if it's not majority, how can a major contingent be in the land and not be keeping any of the laws and not be being cursed for it? I mean, another one, it literally says when you're back in the land that you'll be safe. Is Israel safe? You yourself, Dr. Michael Brown, it literally admitted that they're not safe by their neighbors around them. Let's see, what else? I'm almost done. One other point on that. If you take just in America, which the Jewish population is only about 2%, you could take the so-called African American, the people who we say who are Israelites. If you take all of these people together, which you say there are roughly about 400 million, somehow the Jewish community, that 2% in America alone, not even factoring all the way around the world, literally has more wealth than the 400 million people who we say are Israelites. I would consider that a blessing. So how are you being blessed in that way when you're supposed to be under the curses? And if there's that pushback over, well, you have LeBron James and he's rich, a couple of rich people is not indicative of what the whole population is going through, especially when you look at people like Daniel. Daniel was under the curses, and he was living wealthy while, he was living in good standards. Him, Meshach, Abednego, they were all living in good, and I get it, I'm using the Babylonian names, but still, they were all living in good, decent, at the top of society, but they were still under the curses. The rest of the Israelites were not living like that. So just wanted to put that out. And then, just in particular, he literally used Mexico, literally by name, said Mexico is not going through the curses. Here's this little list that I wanted to show. How Mexico, many of the cities in Mexico are on the list of the most dangerous places in the world. How can you say places which have high crime rates, high violence, evil eye towards their brother, murder, violation of women, children being kidnapped, being taken away, being never seen again, all kind of things, land being stolen, all of this stuff going on, and you dare have the nerve to say, in particular, the Mexicans are not under some kind of curses, and that Ashkenazi Jewish people have it worse than somebody living in Mexico. Let's see, did I hit all of my major topics that I wanted to hit? I think I hit most of it. And I guess just for good measure, I will throw out this bonus on the Bering Strait. He brought out, the so-called Native Americans, they come through the Bering Strait. Well, by you even citing the Bering Strait as a possible theory, means that contradicts what you claim to believe. If you believe in the biblical timeline, which most Christians believe in about 6,000 years, maybe 7,000 plus or minus, Hebrew Israelites, we don't believe. We believe roughly about 12,000. But your understanding, most Christians believe 6,000 to 7,000, right? Well, how can you square believing in the Bering Strait theory, which goes back, what, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000? I don't know. So what you would be saying is that all of these people's story originates outside of the Bible, which, according to the flood story, that's impossible. All right. I guess I hit everything. Hopefully I kept this under 30 minutes. Any other questions? Hit me in the comment section. Anything you guys disagree with or think that should be added to that list of reasons why Guerrilla Hebrew won the debate, actually, please do that. Oh yeah, I got one more. One thing which was alarming to me. I was expecting for a whole bunch of people to come running out after the debate talking about how Dr. Michael Brown, he just destroyed Guerrilla. I heard the typical Christian apologists, which I expected to hear. Ones who are definitely in the Michael Brown camp, win, lose, or draw. But you know what you didn't hear? I didn't see any of the major Christian apologists, which I know listen to this debate. I haven't heard any of them weigh in or chime in, and I'm wondering why. Where are the Dr. James Whites? Where are the Mike Wingers? Where are, you go through and name your top Christian apologists. Where are they at in this? Now, it might come out with something later on, but as of right now, I would have figured if Dr. Michael Brown wiped the floor with Guerrilla so badly, where are they at? All right, that said, thank you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I figured I'd leave you with a bonus clip. This is something which goes around rabbinical circles, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Michael Brown has heard of this, but did not bring this up during the debate. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Catch you on the next video.
The Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world. Our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world.